Hey, welcome back to another episode of Simple Truth Television. Today is August 30th, 2025. So this video is going to be a little different. We're going to go back in history to 1961, and we're going to look at and listen to the life of Rafael Trujillo, who was the dictator in the Dominican Republic from 1930 until May 30th, 1961, when he was supposed to be assassinated by Antonio Barrera, another military officer who also became the 44th president of the Dominican Republic. Ever since a child, I've been hearing this guy's name. I've heard a bunch of things about him. Right, he was a dictator. He was similar to Fidel Castro, and he killed a lot of people supposedly, and blah blah blah. Right. The thing is, right, I not only was I born in the United States, but I was also raised here, and I went to school here, right, from 5th grade all the way to college. So I never went to school in the Dominican Republic. So I never learned about the history of, figures like Trujillo, because we don't learn about people like him in the U.S. I mean, I don't think I've ever heard of. I've never had a teacher that gave us a lesson about any presidents outside of the U.S. And I always wondered why. Why is that? Like, why we don't learn about presidents from other countries? But for some reason they don't teach us that here. Maybe in some schools around the country they do, but not in the schools that I went to. And I'm pretty sure that the people who learned who went to school in the Dominican Republic learned about this guy's life and his regime. And I'm pretty sure it's the same way like in other countries. I don't think that they teach students in other countries about the presidents in the U.S. or American history. Maybe they do, but I don't think that's the case. Because whenever I travel to places like the Dominican Republic, and I bring up names like George Bush, a lot of 90% of the people never even heard that name before over there. They heard names like Trump and Obama because those are the most relevant presidents. But if you name somebody like Abraham Lincoln, 90% of them don't even know who that is. And I'm talking about the people who actually went to college over there. They don't even know who that is. So point I'm trying to make is today. So today I was at the supermarket, right, and there was a group of people arguing, and it was about to fight and everything. I was like, wow, look at that. They was arguing about, and I heard this day they was talking about this guy and what he did to the Mirabal sisters, something like that. And I stood there for like 5 minutes to listen to what they were saying, and I noticed how asleep these people are. Like they don't have an idea of how controlled these presidents are or these dictators are. And as I was looking into the life of this guy had a lot of connections with the Catholic Church, which we'll get into in this video. And I told one of the guys that I gave him my YouTube channel, and I told him I was gonna make a video when I get home to educate him about the regime of Trujillo and the deaths of the Mirabal sisters. If you guys don't know about that story, I'm gonna play 2 videos, and it's gonna resume more or less what this guy did in the Dominican Republic and what happened to the Mirabal sisters. And hopefully he's watching this video, and he can become enlightened. Because I'm not the type to be arguing with people in the street, And I'm pretty sure a lot of you go through the same things. You try to teach people about the significance of the Jesuit order and the Catholic Church and how they influence most of the presidents that we've had in our history. And a lot of people don't want to hear that because they want to just believe whatever they learned in school and whatever they learned from the media. And it's unfortunate, but thank God for Gematria, because Gematria really proves that everything we learned in school was false. Well, at least most of it. Most of it was false. We've been taught false history from the moment we stepped into school. Anyways, let's play a 15-minute video of the life of Trujillo, and then we'll listen to a 5-minute video of what happened to the Mirabal sisters, who are supposed to be like national heroes in the Dominican Republic. And I'm like, but I think what they did with the Mirabal sisters is the same thing they probably did with Rosa Parks here in the U.S. You know, Rosa Parks considered a hero for not wanting to sit in the back of the bus, but we know that was a big 42 ritual, number stamped all over Black history. But yeah, let's play the video, and then we'll talk about the decode. We'll show why he was really assassinated 33 days after JFK gave his speech on secret societies. Great, 9 people watching this live stream. People talk about they respect truth. You know, if I put a caption, if I put a title of this video, let's say Super Bowl winner, it'll be like 400 people watching. People don't want to learn about history though. Unbelievable. But yeah, let's take a listen to the history of the Dominican Republic under the regime of Rafael Trujillo, and then we'll talk about the Mirabal sisters, and then we'll talk about we'll show the real numbers behind their deaths and what it has to do with the Catholic Church.
Rafael Trujillo ruled the Dominican Republic with absolute power. He demanded loyalty, crushed opposition, and built an empire of fear. But no dictator is untouchable. In this video, you will learn about the early life of one of Latin America's most feared dictators, his rise to power, and the events that led to his assassination. Go back in time to understand the history that shaped the Dominican Republic.
Just 1 second, right? So, because I wanna pause it so that way I don't forget things, right? The most powerful, the most feared dictator in Latin American history. I mean, this guy was big time, right? And yet, you know, a lot of us didn't never even heard about this guy. They never learned about him. But notice in gematria, the name Trujillo equals 36 and 54. Look at the term dictator. Dictator, 36 and 54. It's a perfect name for the dictator. And keep in mind, we know about 54 and how what it has to do with the Jesuits, right?
Imagine a nation standing at a crossroads, its fate teetering between hope and uncertainty. The year is 1924. After years under American occupation, the Dominican Republic is finally free, eager to carve out its own destiny. But independence comes with its own set of challenges. Enter President Horacio Vasquez, a seasoned politician tasked with leading a country that had been reshaped by foreign hands. The occupation had brought development, new roads, bustling ports, and a booming sugar industry. Yet, beneath this facade of progress lay a deeper truth. The nation's economy was now heavily reliant on American control, particularly in the sugar sector. Sugar was both a blessing and a curse. It generated wealth, but it also left the country vulnerable, its prosperity dictated by an unpredictable global market. Thousands of Dominican workers found themselves at the mercy of forces far beyond their control. Meanwhile, political stability remained elusive. The withdrawal of American forces created a power vacuum, leaving traditional structures in disarray. Rival factions battled for dominance, each vying for control in a rapidly shifting landscape. The stage was set for upheaval, and then, from the shadows of uncertainty, a figure began to emerge. A man whose name would become synonymous with power and fear. A man who would reshape the Dominican Republic in his own image. Who was Rafael Trujillo? What forces shaped him? And how did he transform from a young boy in San Cristobal into one of the most ruthless dictators of the 20th century? This is the story of his rise, a tale of ambition, manipulation, and relentless pursuit of power. To understand the dictator, we must first understand the boy. Let's step back in time and uncover the origins of El Jefe. Power, control, fear. The name Rafael Trujillo still sends shivers down the spine of those who lived under his rule. But how did a boy born in a small Dominican town rise to become one of the most feared dictators of the 20th century? In the town of San Cristobal, deep in the heart of the Dominican Republic, a child was born on October 24th, 1891. His name was Rafael Leonidas Trujillo Molina, the third of 11 children in a modest family. His beginnings were ordinary, therefore, few could have predicted the dark legacy he would leave behind. Trujillo attended local schools, but, like many of his peers, left formal education early. He found work in the sugar industry, which dominated the Dominican economy. But cutting cane in the sweltering heat was not the future he envisioned for himself. Therefore, he sought power wherever he could find it. He turned to crime, joining gangs known for stealing cattle and engaging in illicit activities. These early experiences taught him a valuable lesson. In a world dictated by strength and cunning, bending the rules was sometimes necessary. But fate had something else in store for him. The American occupation of the Dominican Republic brought sweeping changes. One of the most significant was the creation of the National Guard in 1917, a force meant to bring order to the country. Therefore, it became a golden opportunity for ambitious young men looking to climb the social and military ladder. In 1918, thanks to his employer and family connections, Trujillo secured a position in the National Guard. Major James J. McLean, a friend of Trujillo's uncle, played a crucial role in his recruitment. His sharp mind and unwavering dedication quickly caught the attention of U.S. Marine officer Richard Malcolm Cutts. But Trujillo was not content with merely following orders. He had his eyes set on something much greater. His rise through the ranks was swift. By 1919, he was promoted to second lieutenant, training extensively with the U.S. Marines. By 1922, he commanded the National Guard's 10th Company in San Francisco de Macorís. His superiors praised his discipline and tactical mind, and by 1923, he had secured the rank of major, overseeing the 1st Military District. His rapid ascent was no coincidence. The Dominican military was still in its infancy, therefore, it was an environment ripe for someone with ambition and an unrelenting drive for power. Trujillo recognized that the instability caused by the American occupation was his opportunity to make a name for himself. But merely climbing the ranks of the military was not enough for him. As the Dominican Republic struggled to rebuild its military, Trujillo was already plotting his next move. He had secured power within the ranks. Therefore, he began envisioning a path to even greater control. But to achieve his ultimate goal, he would need more than military prowess. He would need absolute domination. So how did a young officer once entangled in petty crime transform into one of the most ruthless dictators of the 20th century? The answer lies in his ability to seize opportunities, manipulate those around him, and crush anyone who stood in his way. His rise was only just beginning. The Dominican Republic in the late 1920s was a nation standing on the edge of transformation. Political unrest gripped the country, creating a perfect storm for someone to seize power. Therefore, while chaos reigned, one man saw an opportunity. A man who had been waiting in the shadows, orchestrating his rise with patience and precision, Rafael Leonidas Trujillo. President Horacio Vázquez was struggling to maintain control. Economic hardships had weakened his grip on the nation. But where others saw instability, Trujillo saw a chance to cement his influence. He aligned himself with a prominent political figure, Rafael Estrella Ureña, a man eager to overthrow the failing president. Estrella Ureña needed military support to ensure his success. Therefore, he turned to Trujillo, the rising commander within the Dominican military. They struck a deal. Trujillo would ensure the army remained neutral during the uprising, but in return, he would secure his own path to power. On March 3, 1930, Estrella Ureña declared himself acting president, and Trujillo was named head of both the police and the army. Trujillo, now the most powerful man in the military, became the presidential nominee of the newly formed Patriotic Coalition of Citizens. But he had no intention of playing fair. Trujillo wielded his military influence to crush his political opposition. Rival candidates faced relentless harassment and intimidation. The presence of armed soldiers at polling stations sent a clear message: Trujillo was the only choice. But his rise to power wasn't just political manipulation. It was a calculated conquest. When the election results came in, Trujillo secured a staggering 99% of the vote. With this, his grip on the country was solidified.
Shows you how they've been rigging elections everywhere around the world, right? 99% of the votes. Come on.
Picturesque Trujillo City, capital of the Dominican Republic, one of the first Western allies to join the cause of the United Nations, turns out for the inauguration of the president. From the ancient Spanish fortress, built more than 400 years ago, comes the car of Rafael Trujillo Molina. General Trujillo is the strong man of the Republic.
But this was just the beginning of his transformation of the Dominican Republic. 2.5 weeks after he took office, disaster struck. Hurricane San Zenon tore through Santo Domingo, killing over 2.
Yeah, I didn't know about that. Yeah. Weather warfare. What was it called? Hurricane Zanzino?
Disaster struck. Hurricane
Zanzino. Let's just take a look at that real quick. Hurricane Zanzino. There's no record of a hurricane named Zanzio. Oh, I think they misspelled it. So is Hurricane Zanzinon. Hurricane Zanzinon. Okay. So 1930, Hurricane Zanzizon. 8,000 people passed away and today is actually the anniversary of that. Look at that. Talk about the organic side. August 29th, actually it was yesterday the anniversary, but today it was still going on. Okay, so that was 1930. Let's take a look at the numerology. Let's see if it landed on the 52-day numerology. I don't want to play the video straight because I don't know if that account holder might give me a strike. Hopefully they don't. Yesterday was the 95-year anniversary since that hurricane began. Funny. Speaking of the Jesuits in 95. Okay. So it began on 8/29/1930, right? And what is Trujillo's date of birth? 10/24. How old was he when that happened? Oh, he was older. He was like 39 years old. Hey, it happened 56. Yeah, so the hurricane started 56 days after his birthday. Or before his birthday. 44 weeks after his birthday. Killed 44. Military 44. It was on the 241st day of the year, the 53rd prime. And what is the gematria of the hurricane? 88, 205. What day did it finish? September 17th. Thirty-eight days before his birthday. Yeah, man, 8,000 people passed away because of this hurricane. I'm pretty sure this is all weather warfare. No doubt about it. There's your 36 again. Like Trujillo, like dictator. 36 forwards and backwards.
San Zenon tore through Santo Domingo, killing over 2,000 people and leaving the capital in ruins. With the city in crisis, Trujillo took advantage of the devastation. He declared martial law and launched a massive rebuilding campaign. But his response was not just about reconstruction, it was about solidifying his legacy. Trujillo used the disaster to reshape the nation in his image.
Yeah, that was part of the plan. That was part of the plan. Notice San Zenon, the name of the hurricane, is 36. Just like Trujillo, he took over. I mean, he used that as an excuse to solidify his legacy. I guess that's what the video is saying. But just notice the gematria, how it all connects. It always connects. $36, and keep in mind that I think he died on the day leaving 36 days left in the year. 5/30, 1961. Oh, I know what it was. It's not that. One of the Mirabal sisters was born on the 36th day of the year. Is it that? Might not be that. Oh, I know what it is. The 1125. They died on the day leaving 36 days. Yeah, they like the Mirabal sisters, which we'll get into in a few seconds after the video's over. They was killed on November 25th, 1960, which was the Pope's birthday. The day leaving 36 days left in the year. Killed by the dictator.
Renaming the capital Ciudad Trujillo, embedding himself into the identity of the country. Streets, monuments, and public buildings were dedicated in his honor, and with every passing day, his grip on power tightened, and his rule became more oppressive. The Dominican Republic had survived the storm, but a new one was brewing. Trujillo had seized power, manipulated an election, and used a natural disaster to entrench himself as the supreme ruler. His cult of personality grew, overshadowing every aspect of Dominican life.
Think about that's what a lot of presidents have done. George Bush, Hurricane Katrina. So many they've used these weather warfare events to oh man, it's the same thing all over the world. It's a new world order.
But what was life like under his reign? How did his dictatorship shape the daily lives of Dominicans? And what scars did it leave behind? Power can shape nations, but it can also destroy them. Under the iron fist of Rafael Trujillo, the Dominican Republic underwent a transformation like no other. His rule brought economic progress. Therefore, his supporters hailed him as the nation's savior. But beneath the surface of modernization lurked a regime built on fear, violence, and absolute control. In 1937, Trujillo ordered one of the most horrifying massacres in Caribbean history, the Parsley Massacre. He justified it by claiming Haiti was harboring his enemies, unleashing a brutal purge along the border, instructing Dominican soldiers to slaughter Haitian men, women, and children. But this was no conventional execution. Trujillo devised a cruel test. Victims were forced to pronounce the word parsley. Those who struggled with the Spanish pronunciation were immediately condemned. As a result, thousands were executed with machetes, their bodies discarded in mass graves or thrown into the sea at Monte Cristi. But while the massacre drew international outrage, justice was elusive. Washington pressured Trujillo into paying reparations. However, only a fraction of the promised compensation ever reached the survivors. Despite his brutality, Trujillo knew that power was not sustained by violence alone. Trujillo sought complete economic control. Therefore, he ended U.S. financial governance with the whole Trujillo Treaty, securing control over customs revenues and launching a massive propaganda campaign that glorified his leadership. But economic strength did not mean prosperity for all. While the country modernized, Trujillo amassed unimaginable wealth, exploiting industries and siphoning resources for his personal gain. His relationship with the United States remained strategically beneficial. Despite tensions over trade policies, Trujillo maintained a facade of cooperation with Washington, ensuring continued American investment. But as his greed and oppression deepened, the illusion of stability began to crack. The Dominican people lived under his shadow. Streets bore his name, statues loomed in every city, and his face was unavoidable. Fear became a part of daily life, where silence was survival. But even in the darkest moments of his rule, resistance was growing. Trujillo's grip tightened, but resistance strengthened. His brutality had long kept his enemies in check. Therefore, he underestimated the power of the people. But every dictatorship has an expiration date. What led to the final years of his reign? And how did the Dominican Republic finally break free from his suffocating rule? For decades, Rafael Trujillo was hailed as a savior, a godlike figure to the Dominican people. His grandiose public works and staunch anti-communist stance won him favor with both his nation and the United States. But beneath this facade of prosperity and loyalty, a series of events began to unravel the illusion, exposing the true nature of his regime. The first crack in Trujillo's veneer of invincibility came with the disappearance of Jesus de Galindez on March 12, 1956. Galindez, a Spanish politician, writer, and Columbia University professor, was working on a report that would expose the dark truths of Trujillo's rule. On a cold night in New York City, Galindez was allegedly kidnapped and murdered by Trujillo's intelligence operatives. This brazen act of international abduction and murder sent shockwaves through the global community. It marked the beginning of a shift in perception, as people started to see Trujillo not as a benevolent leader, but as a ruthless dictator willing to silence any opposition. Trujillo's obsession with maintaining control extended beyond his borders. He expressed great contempt for Venezuela's president, Romulo Betancourt, a staunch opponent of his regime. On June 24, 1960, Trujillo's agents planted a bomb in Betancourt's car, attempting to assassinate him. Though Betancourt survived, the attempt on Betancourt's car,
June 24th. Let's just take a look at that real quick. June 24th, 1960. It's 340 days after.
Trujillo's agents planted a bomb in Betancourt's car, attempting to assassinate him. Though Betancourt survived, the attempt on his life ignited international outrage. The Betancourt incident was a tipping point. Outraged, the Organization of American States unanimously voted to sever diplomatic relations with Trujillo's government and imposed economic sanctions on the Dominican Republic. Trujillo's actions had isolated him on the world stage, but his most heinous act was yet to come. The final blow to Trujillo's crumbling image was the assassination of the Mirabal sisters on November 25th, 1960.
Okay, let's just stop there real quick. Okay. So yeah, actually I don't think we need to watch the other video because I think this video is going to explain what he did to the sisters and how his regime came to an end. So, but okay, let's just get to the decode and then we'll continue the little 5 minutes that's left in the video. Okay, so as you guys heard, he was the dictator from 1930 to 1961 when he was assassinated on May 30th. Actually, let's just watch the rest of the video because I don't think that you guys heard about that yet. Let's just finish the 5 minutes. My bad.
Patria, Minerva, and Maria Teresa Mirabal were vocal opponents of Trujillo, involved in clandestine activities against his regime. Their brutal murder sparked outrage and galvanized the Dominican people. The deaths of the Mirabal sisters became a rallying cry for resistance. The Dominican people, now fully aware of Trujillo's brutality, began to organize and plot against him. The global community, too, had had enough of his tyranny. With the world and his own people turning against him, Trujillo's days were numbered. But how did this once untouchable dictator meet his end? What were the final moments leading up to Rafael Trujillo's assassination? A warm night in the Dominican Republic, May 30th, 1961. Rafael Trujillo, a man who ruled with absolute power for over 3 decades, was about to take his last breath. For years, his reign had been built on fear and brutality, many believing he was untouchable. But on this fateful night, his enemies were ready to strike. A group of determined conspirators, General Juan Tomás Díaz, General Antonio Imbert Barrera, Amado Garcia Guerrero, Antonio de la Maza, Roberto Pastoriza, Salvador Estrella Sadala, and Pedro Livio Cedeño had one mission: assassinate the dictator and liberate their nation from his grip. They set a trap along a lonely stretch of road near San Cristobal. But even the most carefully laid plans can unravel in the chaos of the moment. As Trujillo's car approached, the assassins opened fire, bringing his reign of terror to an end in a matter of seconds. But victory was far from secured. The conspirators had eliminated Trujillo. They expected swift action to seize control. But General José René Román Fernández, known as Pupo Román, failed to act on the contingency plans. The lack of leadership created a dangerous vacuum. Therefore, the feared intelligence agency, the SIM, led by Johnny Abbes and Roberto Figueroa Cerrón, retaliated with brutal force. But the resistance had already been set in motion. Trujillo's son, Ramfis Trujillo, returned from Paris to avenge his father. He ordered a merciless crackdown. On November 18, 1961, 6 of the main conspirators were executed in what became known as the Hacienda Maria massacre. But 2 men, Antonio Imbert Barrera and Luis Amiyama Tio, managed to escape, keeping the hope of rebellion alive. Trujillo's funeral was a grand affair. Therefore, his supporters attempted to cement his legacy. But his empire was already crumbling. President Joaquín Balaguer, once a loyalist, recognized the shifting tide and maneuvered to distance himself from the regime. Ultimately, Balaguer allowed Ramfis to leave the country, ensuring that the Trujillo era was over. The assassination of Rafael Trujillo marked the end of an era. The Dominican Republic could begin to rebuild, but his fall did not bring immediate peace. What followed were years of political turmoil and foreign intervention, as the nation struggled to find its footing in the wake of his dictatorship. If you found value in this video,
it's unfortunate that the reason all this stuff goes on is because people lack knowledge. They fail to notice who's really in charge. What the video didn't show is his connection to the Catholic Church. I learned that from Wikipedia and other sources. Trujillo, he made a lot of trips to Rome, and he gave a lot of privileges to the Catholic Church to take over the country and become the nation's prominent religion. If you guys didn't know that. And that's why I think in the flag you see a Bible. I think that's one of the only nations that has a Bible on the flag. Okay, so let's get into the decode, right? Okay, so he died on May 30th, 1961, right? If you look on, I'm pretty sure, I looked everywhere. There's not one article written on May 30th, 1961 about his death. Almost every news source reported his death 2 days later, on June 1st. Right, June 1st, 6-1 in the year 61 is when the news of his assassination came out and was made public via news outlets. I'm pretty sure people heard about his death on May 30th, but it wasn't announced on the news until 2 days later, which was June 1st. There might be articles written before that, but I couldn't find it. Right? And I think the reason they did that is because of the significance of the number 61. Notice in gematria the name Rafael Trujillo equals 61. Right? Dead in the year 61. The word dictatorship is 61. And so is Jean Baptist Hansen, who was the Pope during his regime, during the time of his death as well. Right? Just like how right now we have Pope Leo. At that time, it was Pope Jean Baptist Hansen. who his birthday is November 25th, which is the same day that the Mirabal sisters were assassinated. And keep in mind that that's also known now. It became a national, I think, a national holiday. I don't know. Well, I gotta make sure if it's a national holiday, but it is a holiday. And if you guys notice what it says here, November 25th is officially United Nations designated International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, and is celebrated annually in honor of the three sisters who were brutally murdered for their resistance to the dictatorship of Rafael Trujillo in the Dominican Republic. I gotta look up if it's a national holiday here though, but it is a holiday. It's a day to remember the demise of those three sisters, right? But going back to Rafael Trujillo, notice his birthday is 10/24, and he died 218 days after his birthday. This is what proves that these assassinations were done by the numbers, because the way it always lines up, right? From his birthday to his demise, 218 days. We know the word death is 218. Notice Rafael Trujillo, using the reverse gematria, is also 218. And so is Antonio Imbert Barrera, who was the 44th president of the United States. And this was the guy who supposedly fired the shot that ended up killing Trujillo. He was the person, supposedly on record, that killed Trujillo. And his name happens to be 218, like Rafael Trujillo. And the assassination came 218 days after Trujillo's birthday. And then this guy, this stuff is so amazing how they do it. He died. You know, guys, notice how Trujillo died on May 30th? This guy died on May 31st, the day after, in the year 2016. So one day after the anniversary. And his death was reported the next day as well, on 6/1, in the year 16, when 16 is a reflection of 61. And his birthday is December 3rd. Trujillo died 187 days before his birthday. We know Society of Jesus is 187. It's also the police code for murder. And going back to this guy, look, you see, June 1st, 1916, they reported his death, even though he died a day prior. And again, going back to that 61, right? Rafael Trujillo, 61. Dictatorship, 61. And also this guy, what was it? Pope John the 13th, which was actually, you know what? I made a mistake. I think I said Jean Baptist Hanson's was the Pope. That's actually wrong. He was actually the Attorney General of the Society of Jesus. So, my bad. I made a mistake. But I'll show you here. Look, Jean. Yeah, I made a mistake. I said he was the Pope. No, he was actually the 27th Superior General of the Society of Jesus. And we know how the Jesuits in the Catholic Church, the rituals are always connected to the Superior General and the Pope. So in this case, the Mirabal sisters died on his birthday. He was the one born on November 25th. No, it was the Pope born on November 25th. But it was the Attorney Generals whose name equals 61. Like how Trujillo died at the age of 61. No, he died at the age of 69 in the year 61. Oh, man, why I keep messing up today? I don't know. Okay, so let's go back, because I don't want to confuse anybody. I'm confusing myself, but I don't want to confuse others. Trujillo died on May 30th, 1961. His death was reported 2 days later, on 6/1 in the year 61. He was actually 69 years old when he passed away. We know Catholic Church equals 69, like Illuminati, right? The Jesuit order is also 69. And again, they reported his death the 2 days later, right? On 6/1 in the year 61. Rafael Trujillo, 61. Dictatorship, 61. Jean Baptist Hanson was the Superior General of the Jesuits during this murder. His name is also 61. The Mirabal sisters died on the Superior General's birthday, which was November 25th. Okay? And then Trujillo died 218 days after his own birthday when Rafael Trujillo's 218 like death. And the guy who killed him, Antonio Imbert Barrera. And then, of course, that was also 187 days before his birthday, the death of Trujillo, when 187 connected to the Jesuits again. And then this guy, notice again, look now, notice this, right? Trujillo died on May 30th. He died 187 days after the Superior General's birthday. Superior General born on November 25th. And the Mirabal sisters, who was killed, they were killed on November 25th. They died November 25th, 1960. That was the day that the Superior General of the Jesuit Order turned 79 years old. Society of Jesus equals 79 and 187. Right? So the sisters died on his 79th birthday, and then 187 days later, Rafael Trujillo was assassinated by this man right here. And remember, JFK, his birthday is May 29th. So a day after JFK turned 44 years old, the assassination of Trujillo happened. And like I said, through JFK on April 27th, he gave out a speech about secret societies. And then 33 days later, the assassination happened of Rafael Trujillo. And notice Kennedy Federal Secrecy Majesty Order, all 33. And then this article says how the CIA helped in bringing Trujillo down. And we know Trujillo's 117 like Central Intelligence Agency. Right, so hopefully I made that clear. I kind of screwed up when I was showing the connection to the Pope in the Attorney General. But you guys, hopefully you guys may, So hopefully I said it right. It's the Pope that was born on November 25th. Wait, did I mess up again? I think I said the Attorney General. Yeah. I don't know what's going on with me today. Hold on. Yeah. It was the Pope born on November 25th, not the fucking Attorney General, man. So yeah, so the Mirabal sisters died on the Pope's birthday. And the Attorney General's name equals 61. Okay, that's what it is. Now let's take a look at the Attorney General born on December 22nd. If I'm confusing anybody, I apologize. It's just there's a lot of notes, but trust me, it all makes sense. It's connected to the Attorney General and the Pope. That's basically the main point I'm trying to make here. This guy's name equals 61. Trujillo dies in a big 61 ritual, and then he's also known for killing the Mirabal sisters on November 25th, 1960. Which was the day that the Pope turned 79 years old. He was born on 1881. Let's just do the math here so you guys can see it. 1881, 11/25, and then the sisters died on 11/25, 1960. The day the Pope turned 79 years old. I think I said the Attorney General, but it's the Pope. The day the Pope turned 79 years old, the Mirabal sisters were assassinated. And then 187 days after the Pope's birthday, Trujillo was assassinated. Society of Jesus equals 79 and 187. The word murder is also 79 in light of them dying on his 79th birthday. But the ritual is also connected to Jean Baptist Hansen's, whose name equals 61. And then on 6161, 33 days after the JFK speech, Trujillo is gunned down and assassinated at the age of 69 when Catholic Church equals 69. I think I said it now. Now I think we got it right. Yeah, and if you look into the connection with the Catholic Church, there's a lot. There's a lot with Trujillo. He made a lot of trips down to Rome, like I said. The Mirabal sisters, if you look into their story, a lot of them, all three, there's actually four sisters. One of them was not into the political scene. The three that were all killed on November 25th, 1960. They all went to Catholic schools in the Dominican Republic. All three of them. They were all Catholic educated. And then they died by the numbers on November 25th, the Pope's 79th birthday. The date even 36 days after the end, when dictator is 36, like Trujillo. And then going back to what I was saying about International Day for the Elimination of Violence against Women, that was in 1999. They deemed November 25th this holiday, and notice it has gematria of 305, like how Trujillo died on the 30th of May on 30/5. It's also 271 and 58 prime. Secret Society is also 58. So all Catholic pawns, all Catholic puppets. A day after Kennedy's birthday, all this goes down in the Dominican Republic. And then we all know about JFK being assassinated on 11/22. David 33 Numerology. "218 days after his birthday." I mean, come on. And this is the alleged vehicle of his killing. Who knows if this actually even happened? Oh, one more point. June 1st, 1961 was the 153rd day of the year. Judge Orders 153. If you notice this article, let me just double check this, because I wasn't able to find a news article prior to June 1st. So let's just see if there is one out there. And when I mean news article, I mean like what I show you here. Let me show you. Like this, like this, right? Something that was published the day of his death, like something like this. This guy died on May 30th, 31st. They put out his death news on the next day on 6/1/16. But that's what I mean when I say published on May 30th. I don't mean like Wikipedia or... Yeah, that's what I mean. It doesn't exist, I think. The few articles that I found were all published on June 1st. You see this one, I don't know if you guys can see that. It says June. This was published in June. Trujillo shot dead by assassins. His regime reports army rules. Dominican crisis studied by U.S. And this is what they do on. Isn't this what they do on CNN? How they put like different articles, and somehow the articles are all connected. Notice what they have on the left side. They got Kennedy, JFK, article about JFK, and then on the right they have an article about Trujillo. And again, he died 33 days after Kennedy gave out his speech. And Kennedy was also assassinated. And notice the photo that they used. Kennedy in a vehicle, like how Kennedy was assassinated. Oh my God. Stuff has been going on for ages. Yeah, this was the New York Times. This looked like an official newspaper from the day of his demise. But yeah, if you guys notice, I don't know if you guys can see that. Thursday, June. So let's see if June 1st was a Thursday. Let's go to 1961 real quick. I can see Thursday. I can't see the numbers though. Yeah, see, that's what I mean. See, that newspaper is from June 1st. See, Thursday, June 1st, 1961. See, Thursday, June. I don't know what this number is. But you can assume that that's 1961, and that's the number one, because June 1st was a Thursday. But look at that. Yeah, the newspaper, the New York Times, reported the death of Trujillo on June 1st in the year 61. Again, dictatorship, Rafael Trujillo, all 61. The Attorney General, his name is 61. Of course, Jesus Church is all 61. And they printed out this cover with an article about Kennedy next to it. Riding a vehicle. Keep in mind that Kennedy wasn't killed until like the year after, 2 years later, I think. Showed you who's really in charge. Catholic Church. Let me take a look at the chat real quick. Yeah, I kind of messed up. Yeah, I was talking about the Pope. I think I said it was the Pope's birth. I think I said it was the Attorney General's birthday. No, it was actually the Pope's birthday. The day he turned 79 years old is when the Mirabal sisters were killed. There's actually a 5-minute video on why they was murdered. I don't think we need to watch it because we know why. It was all ritualism. Yeah, but you see how sick this stuff is. They create the hurricanes. They use that for some type of political scheme to get votes, and then they still, at the end of the day, still rig the elections. I mean, how does the guy manage to get 99% of the votes? How is that even possible? How can you convince 99% of the population to vote for you? I don't think Jesus can do that. 99%? I think if Jesus ran for president, he wouldn't get 99% of the votes. Sans Xenon. August 29th. Let me see how long was this hurricane. 829. To September 17th, 1930. 19 days, chaos 19. 19 days, man. Wow. Yep. Stuff has been going on for a long time. All right, I'll leave it there. Hopefully this video can help the people that I told them that I was gonna make this video to, and hopefully they learned something from it. Cause I know it was a little confusing towards the end, but if you have a brain, you know exactly what I mean when I say it's the Catholic Church. I mean, it's the Illuminati. Now this stuff is an accident, you know. And they got this guy in 2016 on 6-1, another 61 ritual. And this is the guy who's supposed to be killed through here. You guys think it's a coincidence that The Mirabal sisters died on the Pope's birthday. Anyways, I'll leave it there. Please hit the like, share, and thank you for tuning in. See you guys next time. Peace.